back. I had to go brave the cold to go get my jack out of the car. My bad. Anyway, so I'm gonna finish this book. Damn it, I'm determined at this juncture. I didn't tag anybody. I didn't tag anybody. I should have, I guess, because people are already like. All right. So anyway, I'm back on the air. All right. So we are living in a world that practices the politics of death. And these numbers are 15 years old. Add all the war and made famine since 1972. It is patriarchy that practices the politics of death. Included in these figures, should be all the actual deaths, perhaps also the living deaths, all those millions of women forced by patriarchal religious systems into continuous breeding of continuous raw material for all this continuous murder and dying. Add also Add also the vast numbers of us who will die before this century is over because patriarchal economic systems, chemical and radiation pollution of our food, water, and air, the deaths that are in us now perhaps, the deaths that are in our children. Add finally the deaths of entire species if we do not learn before the end of the 20th century to evolve out of the politics of death into the politics of living. The political art of living, the spiritual art of being alive. For from now on in, genuine global spiritual awareness will be the vanguard of all successful human revolution. Political revolutions that do not follow an organic, terrestrial, cosmic spiritual vision will end up in more patriarchal death. Yes, religious revivals based on obsolete patriarchal ontologies will only end in massive political deaths, the obscenities of holy war. We are really in a trap. We must evolve or die. Clearly, patriarchal systems will not be the mode of our, clearly patriarchal systems will be the mode of our death. What could be the mode of our evolution? Paul Virlo speaks in Pure War about chronopolitics and the distribution of time. Quote, politics is no longer in space, in geospace, but in time. No longer geopolitics, but chronopolitics. Organization, prohibitions, interruptions, orders, powers, structurings, subjections are now in the realm of temporality. And that's where resistance should be. If we fight in space instead of fighting in time. Let's see. We will, and that's an end quote. We will not find the enemy because the enemy does not exist in space, but in time. 4,000 years ago, we are about to destroy each other and the world because of profound mistakes made in the Bronze Age patriarchal ontology. Mistakes about the nature of being, about the nature of human being in the world. Evolution itself is a time process, seemingly a relentlessly linear unfolding. But biology also dreams. And in its dreams and waking visions, it outleaps time as well as space. It experiences prevision, clairvoyance, telepathy, and synchronicity. Thus, we have what has been called a magical capacity built into our genes. It is built into the physical universe. Synchronicity is a quantum phenomenon. The tachyon is consciousness, which can move faster than light. So, built into our biological physical selves, evolving linearly through time and space, is an authentically magical capacity to move spirally. synchronously, multi-sensorily, simultaneously, back and forth, up and down, in and out, through all time and space. In our DNA is a genetic memory going back through time to the first cell and beyond, back through space to the Big Bang, the cosmic egg, and before that. To evolve then, to save ourselves from species extinction, we can activate our genetic capacity for magic. We can go back in time to our pre-patriarchal consciousness of human oneness with the earth. This memory is in our genes. We have lived it. It is ours. This is a quote. This we know. The earth does not belong to man. Man belongs to the earth. This we know. All things are connected like the blood which unites one family. All things are connected. Whatever befalls the earth befalls the sons of earth. Man did not weave the web of life. He is merely a strand in it. Whatever he does to the web, he does to himself. End quote. These were the words of Chief Seattle in 1852. But they are not, quote, Indian words alone. Indian words alone of one century or another. They are an articulation of all human memory. They are our global memory. As we all recede backward through the Christian era, through the Bronze Age, through the Neolithic, through the Stone Age consciousness of Cro-Magnon and Neanderthal, through the primates, mammals, birds, reptiles, starfish, algae to the first cell. By going back to our clear knowledge that the earth does not belong to us, but rather we belong to the earth. As the cosmos does not belong to us, we belong to the cosmos. We can also leap forward to that time when we know with equal clarity that we all belong together, belong equally with one another on the earth, which is our mother and our home, within a universe that is eternally God's body and our home. Such words as Chief Seattle's are not moral sentiments or emotional wishes. They are statements of cosmic law, of biological physical law. Our consciousness is a property of our biological being. At the deepest levels of biological and of physical being, all consciousness in the universe is inextricably linked in a galactic network or webwork of mutual awarenesses and mutually interchanging gestalts. This mutual interaction may be described as the brain of God, in which all thoughts are living realities. This is where we live, either mutually evolving or mutually dying, just as all thoughts either realize themselves or die. Within such a living and dying cosmos, how can we make rational distinctions between spirit and flesh and social system? Spirit and flesh, spiritual systems and political systems and economic systems and social systems. Clearly, they are all bound together and interacting thoughts. And therefore, such words of Chief Seattle's are also statements of political, social, and economic law. They tell us that within such a cosmically extenuated webwork of mutually interacting and intersensing thoughts, profit can never be a good word, nor can individualism in pursuit of profit be a wholesome or sane activity. Profit is always at the expense of the whole world. The isolated individual does not exist. Personal profit is an illusion of imbalance, and all rebalancing involves massive repercussion. The Western biblical capitalist world's individualistic denial of the interconnected webwork of all existence has not, could never, make that webwork non-existent. It has only made its global reality increasingly painful. We are all locked in together, interlocked in mind, body, and soul together. The tremor of pain of one will eventually touch us all and become all. The degree of pain being experienced in the world today is very close to the point of global implosion. If we do not blow each other up with explosions of mutual fear and hatred, we will collapse inward in an implosion of mutually inflicted isolation and pain. As we are all connected together, there is nowhere we can go. Whatever we do, the repercussions of our present situation will be global. The earth is implacably round. We can change our thoughts, however. Evolution begins in the brain of any creature who experiences the need to evolve. Species can make quantum... Listen to what I'm telling you, Obasi. Species can make quantum leaps of change when the threshold number of them experience the need to change. Genetics can speak of random mutation, but in fact, gene mutations are reflections or reflexes of perceived needs within a species. Remember the shark story I was telling you, Abasi? Biology can make mistakes, but not because it is unconscious. Biology is profoundly conscious and profoundly responsive to thought and the perceived need. As a species, we must attain that threshold number of conscious beings who perceive totally our need to evolve quickly and the optimal direction of that evolution. To do this, we must experience the spiritual as well as the physical oneness of our species. Patriarchal religions, economic and political systems are based upon the systematic inculcation of our human and irreparable differences of sex, of color, of caste, of class, of religion and nation and geographical region. The constant exacerbation of these differences, patriarchy thrives on such exacerbation, prevents us from attaining that common consciousness we need as a species in order to bring about our own evolution, our survival, that is, via evolution. We must remember the chemical connections between ourselves and the stars, between the beginning and now. We must remember and reactivate the primal consciousness of oneness between all living things. We must return to that time in our genetic memory and our dreams when we were one species born to live together on Earth as her magic children. These are things human beings have known for most of our time on Earth. For at least 500,000 years, we have known them. For about 5 billion years of Earth time, we have known them. For a good 13 billion years of galactic time, we have known them. And, no doubt, longer than that. Set against this long galactic, terrestrial, and human time of knowing our oneness, the past 4,000 years of patriarchy's institutional and doctrinal denial of our oneness, once we see it for what it was, will appear a mere aberration, just a brief forgetting. That is the end of that chapter. This is the last chapter of the whole book that we've been reading since September. The great cosmic mother rediscovering the religion of the earth. Here we go. This is a very short chapter. Let's pass it off. Go ahead and read it. Name of this chapter, the final chapter in this dynamic book, is Respell the World. Witches cast spells, not to do evil, but to promote changes of consciousness. Witches cast spells as acts of redefinition. To respell the world means to redefine the root of our being. It means to redefine us and therefore change us by returning us to our original consciousness of magical evolutionary processes. This consciousness is within us, in our biology, and in our dreams. It works on subliminal levels, whether or not we are aware of it, because it is the energy of life and imagination. When we are aware of it, it works for us as the energy of destiny, and it is powerful with the genuine power of biological life and cosmic imagination. Perhaps ancient women had access to psychic and physical powers as we have forgotten. Ancient peoples of both sexes living under the Stone Age Great Mother, like those remaining of Earth's primal people today, had magical powers of telepathy, clairvoyance, precognition, teletransportation, of firewalking and shape-changing, of healing and building, not because such powers were, quote, pagan superstitions or of the devil, but because they are natural powers of the earth. We know that the psychic, physical, spinal techniques of illumination used by yogis and mystics, technical powers that lie dormant within all of us, were first developed by women as natural modes of communication with the larger self, the earth, and the cosmos. During the later Paleolithic and throughout the Neolithic, sexual and spiritual powers were fused through techniques of meditation, use of natural hallucinogens, and the spiraling, mandalic dances of creation, dissolution within the great caves, labyrinths, and stone circles. The energies generated by these techniques became power used to the benefit of all, which is the only way power can be safely used. Ancient legends speak of the winged radiance of those who have achieved the dynamic equilibrium, the ecstatic union of the currents, which is the description of those who have raised evolutionary energy in the form of the Kundalini, the cosmic serpent, up through the spinal world tree of all manifest being, until it reaches the highest chakra of the human mind, becoming winged illumination. These beings were called the undivided ones of original Gaiandrous consciousness. With such powers, perhaps, mountains could be moved. Truly, great earth mounds could be built, great stones lifted and transported for miles, underground temples carved out of rock without the use of metal tools, i.e., great acts of physical construction could be performed without force or slave labor, as expressions of a common consciousness and a common will. More important, acts of mental construction were performed which allowed people to live together harmoniously in meaningful and exciting intercommunication with all the creatures of the earth, Earth herself, and the energy beings of the moon, sun, planets, and the stars. The time when the mountains sang and the rivers clapped hands was perhaps that numinous terrestrial time when all human beings were able to live harmoniously and consciously together as magic children within the living body of the cosmos. Perhaps. We do not know. We can only look at the evidence and imagine. We know only what we can imagine. We know only that we can imagine. That we can imagine as no other creature on earth can do. Signifies our uniqueness, both its quality and its purpose. We are the imagining animals. We are the ones who participate in the earth's evolutionary process of imagination. For what is every manifest life form and activity on earth if not the products of earth's imagination? Imagination, which is a form of memory moving both forward and backward in time, i.e., the creative process itself. Perhaps the greatest harm patriarchy has done to us is to stifle, co-opt, and deform our powers of imagination. Moralisms, dualistic dogmas, repressive prohibitions block our imagination at its source, which is the fusion of sexual and spiritual energies. Patriarchal religions keep this fusion from happening. Imagination dies and is replaced by mechanical linear thought patterns, i.e., indoctrination. Human beings crippled in our imaginations, or no longer able to live in the terrain of dreams, are human beings undergoing indoctrination, exploitation, and colonization. Soon, the only way to get there anymore is via drugs, drunkenness, and madness, or vicariously through the art and entertainment industry. Ooh! Patriarchy is an anti-evolutionary and an anti-magic force. By cutting us off from our long evolutionary history, and in particular by dishonestly teaching us that our pre-patriarchal ancestors were immoral savages, or stupid, unrealized beings whose lives were only nasty, brutish, and short. It blocks our access to our own blood history. It cuts us off from millions of years of creative evolutionary energy stored up in our genes, our genetic memories, the powerhouses of imagination. It lies to us about who we are by telling us lies about who we are. It changes us from magical to sinful in order to make us believe we need patriarchy to save us from ourselves. By cutting us off from magic as natural property of Earth, as a conscious form of biological energy, patriarchy further tries to make us dependent upon its mechanical systems and definitions as the only modes of life that work. In its denial of magic, patriarchy creates objectivity. Ooh, shit. Patriarchy creates objectivity as the only legitimate mode of knowledge. Objectivity, as we've said, is a spectator sport because it's a spectator sport based upon the illusion that the observer is outside the phenomenon being observed. The objective observer denies his participation in the observed phenomenon by virtually killing it, by making it into a dead thing. Thus, all objective information is analogous to autopsy studies done on a corpse. Patriarchy has tried to render and redefine the entire earth and all its creatures as dead things in order to sustain its pretense of possessing objective information about all of us. Objective information, as Foucault has also shown, is merely a tool of control and exploitation. It is one of the modes of illegitimate power, otherwise known as profit. Subjectivity, we must know, is the only state of experience in the universe. The only state of experience being is that of subjective experiencing itself, of the subject experiencing itself, and the world from within. This includes the self-experiencing itself experiencing the subjective things. There is no such thing as object, because there is no such thing as experience itself as object. We are only subjects with the illusion of experiencing other subjects as objects. The object exists only and definitively as an aspect of the subjective consciousness, the aspect that defines me and that, and some apprehension of a border between. As quantum physics shows us, this apprehension of a border is purely a subjective one, the kind of border found in the cartoons and coloring books, and in the more subtle technology of the human eye. Physically, i.e. in quantum reality, no borders exist. No border exists in the reality of spirit either, as the spirit is a conscious perception of real energy fields and interactions. The border perception is a function of the individual's experience of evolution through time and space. To initially perceive the reality of ourselves, perhaps we need the border perception. Infants with immature eyes don't have it. To begin to define the reality of the world, we need to erase it, to transcend it. Everything touches everything in the real world. There are no borders. And this is the fact upon which the validity of magic is based, i.e., to objectify us, to divide and conquer us, patriarchy needs to insist on the reality of borders while denying the reality of magic. Only in this way can we be perceptually, intellectually, and systematically separated and thus weakened, while the great healing power of our common bondedness remains repressed. This common bond is no moral sentiment or humanist ideal, but a biological and quantum fact. Its sheer power, when raised from the subliminal to the conscious level, could generate an energy more equivalent to all the stored destruction of our bombs. From within us is the stored creativity of billions and billions of atoms. We know this. The thing that keeps us from activating our common creative evolutionary power is the perceptual and intellectual habit of separateness, i.e., 4,000 years of patriarchal ideology. All patriarchal religions have their mystics, and many of those come forward now to offer humanity a spiritual solution to a human crisis. But all these solutions occur within the terms of the problem itself, i.e., they are more examples of patriarchy perpetuating itself. Male mystics within the patriarchal cultures and systems can never reach a true fusion in the depths of their beings, of the sexual spiritual powers. Patriarchy's pejorative definitions of sexuality and abstract definitions of spirit prohibit this fusion. Patriarchal mystics are out of resonance with the earth spirit, with ecstasy, and with the dead. Most of all, they are out of contact with female energy. Their patriarchal worldviews are based on a biophobic denial of this creative female energy in both men and women. And all of us live in societies constructed out of this denial, societies that have attempted for 4 millennia to repress and destroy the bisexual nature of us all. In such nihilistic social energy fields, no real magic can happen. In its place in the past 2 decades, we have witnessed and undergone many morbid, sad, and narcissistic trips. Mystics and all religious people with patriarchal systems must begin to deal honestly with the fact that patriarchy can never, ever be anything other than divided against itself. For this schizoid self-division is the basic ontological act upon which it was built. Union or fusion cannot happen within patriarchal terms. It is patriarchy, after all, which deliberately sets out to banish and destroy ecstasy. What is ecstasy? It is our original state of being. It is the conscious expansion of the universe into a multitude of interconnected dimensions and forms. It is her dance of being from which all of us were born. Ecstasy is passion self-expressed through form. In the case of Earth, human beings and all other creatures and biological and geological activities are the forms. Cosmic energy is the passion. Ecstasy is the source and reality of all we feel, see, and are. So then, why don't human beings exist in a state of constant ecstasy? If ecstasy is the inevitable expression of being a conscious form or living cell in a cosmic energy sea, why don't we cognize it or feel it? What obstructs almost all human beings beyond the age of 5 from knowing this experience, which is physically indigenous and ontologically rooted in the very fact of the universe existing at all? Surely we know the answer. Patriarchal systems tell us that ecstasy is impossible or wrong, except according to its terms, its alienating definitions. But ecstasy, by definition, cannot exist on patriarchal terms. Ecstasy is the complete ontological challenge to patriarchy's explanation of life. Where patriarchal religious and social systems cannot wholly repress ecstasy, they demonize it. Ecstasy becomes an underground or forbidden activity, most often experienced privately, accompanied by guilt, rarely in common accompanied by a whole world. But in and with the whole world is where we are supposed to feel ecstasy. In and with and as the whole world is where our human ecstasy is born. It is the celebration of the recognition that our spirit and flesh are one. It is the human female who was designed by evolution itself as the link between sexuality and spirit, between biological energy and the cosmic soul. It is the human female as the leading edge of earthly evolution, who was specifically neurologically structured for the experience of ecstasy. For this reason, the first religions on earth were designed by women, for women, and in celebration of femaleness. For this reason, matrifocal cultures had no reason or need to deny the other, for all otherness was a part of the mother. In ecstasy, all otherness becomes the self, the one. Ancient women could not have invented because they had no need for paranoid divisions between psyche and body, power-hungry manipulations of spirit versus matter, dualistic explanations of flesh versus soul. They were the undivided ones, tapping into unhindered flows of ecstatic energy, which is both spiritual and biological, of earthly soil and cosmic thought together. Not needing to tell a lie at the root of things about the origin of life. Not needing to maintain this lie by force, day and night, against the urges of all nature and its consciousness towards the truth. Women's cultures would not have needed to maintain themselves by energy repressive systems, by coercive and punitive surveillance systems based on social castes and economic status or skin color or eye color or dress. Nor would there be any need for hierarchic organizations, tyrannical terrors, or political frauds. All these patriarchal accoutrements are necessary to enforce mechanical order in the absence of organic order. All these patriarchal machineries are necessary to enforce the repression of common ecstasy, an ecstasy indigenous to all cultures that exist to realize rather than to deny the one at the heart of all. A return to the goddess is not a backward trip through space or time. The human race cannot really return to infancy. We are too far gone for that. We are too far gone for that. We return to the goddess by remembering, redefining, respelling, by turning, as in a dance, away from one gesture and towards another. Patriarchal ontology is based on a three-dimensional reality. Modern physics is showing us that the universe has not 4 dimensions, but as many as 11 dimensions, perhaps more. The universe is undergoing ecstatic exponential expansion into 11 or more dimensions. Surely 3-dimensional religions cannot keep us in touch with such a universe. If we do not want to die, then we must evolve. And that means we must dance. Expand exponentially with the dancing cosmos. We return to the cosmos only by becoming lovers of life, rather than life's victims, voyeurs, and policemen. How twisted we have become within the biophobic religions, spending most of our waking hours in grotesque postures of aggression, hurry, hate, self-righteousness, resentment, paranoia, and murderousness. Under the rule of the patriarchal God, we are all gargoyles, characterized by rigid poses that reveal mostly our terrible fears and greeds, eaten away from the inside by cancerous needs. To return to harmony, to return to the goddess, to become lovers of the goddess once again, we must realign our gestures into those of dancers. We must become beings who do not wish to control life, but only listen to its music and dance it. This is not easy to do. It might be impossible, but it is our only alternative to mass death, whether by war or by total global mechanization. The patriarchal God has only one commandment: punish life for being what it is. The goddess also only has one commandment: love life for what it is. Women, designed by evolution as the links between spirit and flesh, are perhaps also designed by the cosmos to lead the human world back, now, to the great celebration for the reconciliation of flesh and spirit. Thus, at the very edge of death, we will return to the beginning. That is, at the end of the world, where we must surely be, we will return to the goddess, the great mother of us all, as her magic children. In a round world, the only way for human beings to survive to the end is to return to the beginning. Thus, we complete a circle, but on a spiral, we revolve to a larger circle. Now is the time to make again sacred our experience, which power, it is said, cannot truly die, since it is a real power of the real cosmos. It can't die, it can only be forgotten. That means it can also be remembered. As the serpent can be awakened from its trance sleep at the bottom of the spine and induced to rise, to become the luminous flying bird of the imagining mind. Once we thoroughly understand how and why patriarchy acquired its power over us, the power of an entrenched mistake over the minds and lives of all people, once we understand and feel clearly that the fight of witch women is also the fight of Earth's people everywhere against mechanical subjugation and exploitation, once we reestablish the magic link between the individual psyche and the Earth's vital energy flow, between all evolving matter and all evolving spirit, and learn to encourage and teach others to do the same, and a loving return to what we always were, perhaps then, in the final time of crisis, the serpent goddess will shake herself loose from the deep exiled sleep in the earth's belly. Perhaps the serpent of life's flow energy will begin to rise again, all luminous and of the earth, and the children of the Great Mother will rise up with it, and the universe will be our home again as before. This flight is not an escape, but a return. The only way for human beings to survive the end is to return to the beginning. And then, okay, so that's the end of the chapter. But she closes with a poem that I am going to read. It's a prayer, and Lord, I got chills everywhere. This has been a journey, so this is the official end. Listen to the words of the Great Mother. She says, whenever ye have need of anything, once in the month, and better it be when the moon is full, then ye shall assemble in some secret place. To these I will teach things that are yet unknown, and ye shall be free from all slavery. Keep pure your highest ideas, strive ever toward it. Let not stop you, nor turn you aside. Mine is the cup of wine of life, and the cauldron of settling. I am the mother of all living, and my love is poured out upon the earth. I am the beauty of the green earth, and the white moon among the stars, and the mystery of the waters, and the desire in the heart of woman. Before my face, let thine innermost self be unfolded in the raptures of the infinite. Know the mystery, that if which thou seekest thou findest not within thee, thou wilt never find it without thee. For behold, I have been with thee from the beginning, and I await thee now, blessed be. We made it! We did it! This whole big old giant book since September. We made it! We made it! That is the end. That is the conclusion. That is the wonderful, wonderful book. The Great Cosmic Mother, Rediscovering the Religion of the Earth by Monica Soju and Barbara Moore. Powerful, powerful reading. I feel such a sense of accomplishment in its completion. Oh, ashe, 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 oh. Okay, so that is it. I'll have to figure out what I'm going to give y'all next, but I'm going to take a break. I don't know, maybe 2 weeks or so. I'll come up with something good, though. But, yeah, so for those that are interested or have never tuned in, go back through my pictures, folders, both in Moyende Creations and my Moyende Creations Facebook page, as well as my Iapo Ingina Facebook page. Look in the picture folders, and there you will find all the videos that I've done of the entire book. So, yeah, rewatch them. I do. I learn, very holistically. So by sight, sound, and speaking, and touch. So I always get something different when I read than when I listen to the read. So yeah, it's just been a powerful experience. I'm grateful for those that have participated. And I'll be back again with some other good juicy bit. Don't know what it's going to be. You can make suggestions. That's great in the comment section or inbox me. Make suggestions of what I should read next. But that's it. We're finished. Yay. All right. Good.